Hello, you are listening to the Gamer Librarian Podcast, the best podcast you can find on this side of the multiverse. I am your host, Adrian, and today I will be talking about manga like Uzumaki by Junji Ito, JoJo's Bizarre Adventure by Hirohiko Araki, and more. Afterwards, be sure to subscribe to be notified when future episodes are released, and show your support by liking and leaving a comment. So, here we are on another Friday in the best month of the year, October. This month is a busy month for me. We just moved into our first apartment and we're still unpacking. We broke the bed frame, so now we're waiting for spare parts, but it's cool. It's a lovely place. Hopefully, the guys aren't hearing any of the outside noises. This also means this is the third place I've ever recorded the podcast in. I plan on making a space for recording, maybe streaming that looks nice for camera. I still haven't decided what books or games or other items I plan on keeping or leaving behind. I haven't even gotten a desk put in yet. Besides, Halloween Dragon Age the Railguard are at the end of the month, and I'm going to try and keep October themed around spooky stuff. Now, I have had time to game just a little bit, only get a little bit into certain games. One of them is one that I've been waiting to play because of a crossover that it had with Dave the Diver, also The Witcher, and apparently Among Us and one other one. And now this was a reason for me to play this game because I do love card-based video games, especially like the roguelike ones that I've been playing recently, especially Inscryption, that I'll talk about right after Balatro. But Balatro is really fun. It's a poker-based game. You can play it on like Steam as well, but you have to make like straights, royal flushes, any kind of poker hand out of the eight starting cards you have. It's initially eight, but sometimes in some scenarios you start out with less. And then obviously you want to beat a score. And then there's something called like an ante, which is like three trials. Once you beat those, you beat like a certain amount of scores, and then you get to go to like a higher tier, like difficulty. It's pretty cool so far. And yeah, other than it being a poker game, I just wanted a game that had a Dave the Diver crossover. That was an entirely reason for me to get it. It's $10 less on mobile than it is the Steam version, at least right now, that I saw like whatever days ago. So maybe right now it's like maybe a little less on Steam because maybe they have a sale or something. They usually do, but last time I checked it was like 15. So that was, a good deal on mobile. So that was really nice. And then Inscryption, dude, that game was so crazy. As soon as you initially like do in Act One and you get to the found footage stuff, I was like, oh, this is like a cool like Easter egg ending. And I was like, well, here's the credits. Nope, more game, two more acts. That was crazy. I had a blast playing that game, and the fact that like the mechanics kept building upon themselves, I was actually a little sad that there's no like amalgamation of all of them. At least towards the end, because there's like a ultra hard secret mode called something mod, and in it you can do like certain challenges or have like certain debuffs as a challenge to make the game harder, kind of like the skulls from Halo, which is really fun. So you get like three or four initially unlocked once you get that far, but I won't say anything else about Inscription. But if you also like card-based video games, you need to play Inscription, especially because it's got a little bit of a spooky vibe. The tone is very like dark to gets a little cyberpunk as well to some point. And that's as far as I'll say. It's pretty grim in a lot of ways. The whole point of sacrifice is about it. So like yeah, tying it to the horror theme that we're gonna try and keep going for October. So yeah, either of those games, Balatro Mobile or Inscription, if you like card-based video games, go out and play them. I'm gonna try and play a few more. Shout out to like Marvel Snap as well, because that was one that I played for a long time as well, at least a year, and it's been a long time, but that was one I had a good time playing. So I imagine with all the new updates and stuff, it's probably just as good. And yeah, other than that, Wukong, that's what I'm playing, trying to really beat that game before Dragon Age. That's kind of the main goal for October for at least video games. If I do beat it soon before Dragon Age, I'll maybe try and play some spooky video games, but I honestly just want to beat Wukong, especially Dragon Ball. Dragon Ball comes out soon, but I have like plans to play that with. Like I play that game on and off, but it's really Wukong that I want to focus on. So I beat Red Boy, and then the second phase is like King whatever. And man, that fight is a little difficult, but I only really got to that part once. So as soon as I started, it was like, oh, this is a little hard. He has big swings, big swings, and that spike move on the ground was I don't have pole upgrade where you can like rise on it and like stand on it. I don't have that, so it's just like all ground, foot based like movement and stuff like that. But we're working with it. We're working with it. We're gonna try and beat that over the weekend at the very least, and try to beat the game over the weekend. That's chapter 5 we're still on, so there's one more, and yeah, that's basically about it for games that we're on, except for Dragon Age. I just gotta sign whether or not I'm gonna pay the full price or give EA a 16-month sub for I don't even know how much it is, maybe $8. But I will be playing Dragon Age the Veilguard at some point because I want to play that game, and that game is gonna be make or break it for me for EA, whether or not I even decide to ever buy one of their games ever again. Because from a lot of what I've seen about it, and I had like an article here about something for it where there was the emphasis on not contradicting like the choices from the game, the previous games. It was with the creative director John Epler, and then until we see it, it really wouldn't matter. But this harkens back to like the Liliana situation in Dragon Age. It's the only one that comes to mind right now. And yeah, I just really wish that the game maybe focused on, making the gameplay expand first in terms of like Dragon Age and like the RPG style that it tried to have, which was like mimicking not just like the tactical aspect that we had in mostly Origins and 3 Inquisition, but than like the more 3D aspect of it. And this game maybe seems like it's taking away things like that. And until I get my hands on it, I'm not really going to say much, but I'm just still super excited, just deciding on whether or not it's going to be a good time with my money or not. And that's basically it. But besides that, that's basically all we had about games. So, there's a few articles about games I think we could talk about. Like Tekken Boss tried to get the KFC um, owners to get the Colonel Sanders, I guess the anime version of Colonel Sanders, into the Tekken game. And, regardless of whether or not that would have happened or not, I still thought it was still funny. And, I think that it's like marketing. It would have been really great. And you don't see that stuff anymore, which is really sad. You don't see this kind of really fun, goofy stuff anymore without it being like some big spectacle or something. And it's like, why don't companies sign off on this like anymore? Just like, yeah, make this, have it with like this season pass, whatever you do, and like whenever time, and make it good. And like they said, do the due diligence, and you see like a lot of the stuff like not really go so well, and they say be like, yeah, so is how it works in game, but before it's put out. Like we have Tekken, we have people in the company who probably like Tekken, they'll probably know what's good. We'll ask like why won't even go that far? Because like it's fun and goofy, and it feels like people don't like being fun and goofy with things anymore, especially if like I guess if they're old and in charge of companies and they don't understand fun things because they're old and dumb. That's basically it. That's where that's all gonna go. And then Blizzard reportedly had a Diablo adaptation with also StarCraft and Overwatch through Netflix, but then it sued them apparently, and that was put out through a book which I would like to read apparently by Jason Schreier, I believe, yeah, called the Nice or Play Nice: The Rise, Fall, and Future of Blizzard Entertainment. I would really like to read that at some point. That's going to be a book that I have to get onto, but eventually I will do that, but that's crazy because, I think adaptations are cool, especially for games where like you haven't seen them for a while. And like if you're really trying to cook up hype or even like tie in stuff, which is like kind of not super important or needed, but it's definitely another plus to doing this for getting fans to experience it and just make it a little bit fun. But it seems like things are only done for money, and in the very least, with like video games, trying to push the quality of games. I think we saw that like it's like CGI at certain points. I think we saw that with like World of Warcraft. It seems like because they could just made it animated, or made it look like the World of Warcraft world, and it would have done far better than doing. I think the CGI stuff that they had, I think it would have been not as good. That's just me. Um, yeah, I'm trying to keep them all video game related. And then there's a video game that's basically just Persona and Earthbound that came out, I think a little bit ago. It's only like 40 hours long. The article says the game is called Bloomtown. A different story is Stranger Things meets Persona 5. Oh my God, the art just looks good. So I'm only basing on the art. As soon as I saw the art, I was like, okay, I'll play this game. Yeah, that's basically all you had to tell me. I don't even know what the gameplay is. I don't care. But that seems like a fun game. It really does. And Call of Duty Black Ops brings back the replacer for its live action trailer for Black Ops 6. And as fun as I like Call of Duty, as fun as it is, it's just I'm not really gonna pay all that money for a multiplayer game that, like, I don't really think the multiplayer has really expanded in a way that's enjoyable. So there's not really an excuse for me to devote money or time into it. And Scream 7 is getting a 2026 release date. That's basically all I care about. And I know, like, there was like a whole backlash with money not being paid out to certain actors who are reprising their roles, and then some other hoopla with the cast. But you know, I'm just a big fan of the Scream series, and it's just fun to watch these shitty little movies. As much as they're fun and enjoyable, they are quite not the same as they were with the newer iterations compared to the past ones. And VHS, the fourth movie, I believe, got a review on Netflix. They call it a 8, which is good enough for me, and I'm gonna try and watch that. I think it says it comes out October 4th, which was today as of the recording, and I'll try to watch that at some point. We did watch the for like things that came out recently. We did watch the Salem's Lot Max show, or I'm sorry, movie that came out, and I actually kind of liked it. I thought it was pretty enjoyable for what it added. There's a really funny line in it, which is just kind of goofy funny, which was I liked. But other than that, it was a very straightforward movie and enjoyable. I think it might be even pretty spooky for some people to good quality. So yeah, VHS Salem's Lot, we're gonna be watching that, and Max has another thing that we're going to talk about soon, but I want to keep talking about. That was the end of the articles. So that's basically all I had for, relevant news that I thought was, pretty important through whatever I just kept in my Google Doc. And yeah, other than that, we already touched on a few things like the video games. So yeah, I do think it's time to talk about our sponsor, Dubby. Dubby is a clean energy drink that is made to give you focus with no crash, jitters, or angst like other energy drinks. We also have no maltodextrin fillers and don't use artificial dyes. W contains vitamins, amino acids, a nootropic, and 150 milligrams of caffeine. If you use the coupon code GamerLibrarian, you will get 10% off anything you get at checkout. Things like drink powders, apparel, portable bottles, stickers, bags, all kinds of stuff if you use the coupon code GamerLibrarian. W is an energy drink powder that is produced in FDA registered and inspected facilities in the United States. So, to really keep the spirit of Halloween in check, I made a divergence from what I was originally reading, which was the JoJo's Bizarre Adventure manga. And I did that in the spirit of trying to catch up on reading the whole thing before the Adult Swim adaptation dropped, which luckily it did just in time. Oh, it was so good, so good. Which, to also say, such good timing, they also released the Uzumaki anime series original soundtrack by Colin Stetson. Shout out to him because that came out as soon as I started reading Uzumaki, and I just put that on the whole read, and it was the best. It was one of the best times I had, like, choosing a soundtrack or using music as I'm experiencing a book. Uh, Phenomenal. I had a really great time. It made really enhanced that experience, you know. So getting to go through the book for the second time with Colin Sesson's additional anime series soundtrack. Great, super, super awesome. I'm gonna try and get it on vinyl, which is on IGN. I would love to get a copy. That would be super cool. So I'm gonna really try and do that. But to get into the manga itself, before we get into the show, because it's the manga that I really think is the main experience for it. I mean, the way that you flip through it, and as you turn the page, the larger panels with the bigger artwork, the larger spirals, it's just so good. I would dislike to get into any story details other than like it takes place in a single town and it's a masterpiece of storytelling. I mean, I love going through this book and the characters on top of just the way the world interacts with them and how they react and react to each other. It's just, it's peak horror, peak science fiction, and it's just one of the best works that I've ever had to read. I wanted to get a little bit into like my top 10 manga just for a tiny bit because it's just like, you know, there's so many good ones out there, and I haven't finished or, you know, gotten to finish a lot of them because some of them are even still ongoing. But if I really had to choose my ultimate top 10 list of, what I like of manga from what I could finish and read, I would choose like Berserk is number one, just hands down. I think the artwork in that is next to none, all already considering like everything else that's here. But the grim dark nature of it, the characters that live in that world and how, you know, varied they are to some cheerful to some really grim and debauched characters. It's just so great. Like Guts would be a great skin for a character in something like I mean Fortnite, I don't know if they even have that, but I'm thinking like Warhammer, right? Like you get like Guts and he just has like a big sword or some goofy stuff like that. I think that'd be really fun. Um, yeah, and Uzumaki would be second, absolutely. Uzumaki would be absolutely my second favorite manga of all time, just because it's such a complete story, and I like you can really start it from just beginning to end so quick and fast and have one of the greatest experience because it goes on. Like the time you spend in Karuzucho, the town, it just keeps you going. You spiral into it, and it's so deep. So I had the deluxe edition, the one that includes the version of Galaxies, which I had never read in my initial run of Uzumaki. Like I never had that, which just really completes the entire story in the best way. And if I had to really say anything about what my favorite thing about it would be, it's the Snail Boy uh, chapter. It's when that's introduced. It's probably like one of the coolest scenes in the entire manga, and it recurs throughout the rest of the story, and it's just so good. It's so good, and it was really great to get to experience the Adult Swim adaptation as well because they do it so great. I saw an article that was like it's not really about being scary, and I was just like, you know what, that's fine. I'm not really about being scared by like a motion picture because like if you want to be scared, I would just read it because it's a lot scarier if you read it and you look into it and you try to like look into the art and try to like look deep into the spirals as it's just there. Some of the scenes like with Suichi's father, it's very, that's scary enough right there. And the story is, relatively about like obsession, and you can read into the spiral into like a lot of different ways, and it's some kind of weird thing. And I know there's a lot of superstition over there in Japan, so you could take a lot of from the story, but other than enjoying the characters and writing the story out with them, this is peak Lovecraft horror fiction. Obviously, it's so good. So the anime adaptation for Adult Swim, it only had the first episode. The second one comes out tomorrow, I believe, and it's gonna be awesome. The first episode only really covers like the first three chapters. It kind of teases and shows a little bit extra, which is actually kind of nice. So like as it's only four episodes, I think it's going to be pretty tight. That's debatable on what they're going to really show next, but I think it's going to be nice. I'm excited to see all of the cool scenes and at least some variation of motion because as we go through it, not the whole show is animated. It's definitely drawn and just like it's in black and white and it's like mostly still from what we can tell, and not everything is motion, which is nice. They're not doing a whole lot. Um, I honestly, I think it'd be really cool if we got like a theatrical release of this somewhere, which would be really tight. So yeah, we're certainly going to be covering the rest of Uzumaki, the Adult Swim adaptation, as we get through October and it releases here for the podcast. It's gonna be really fun, and we're just gonna blast through what's like my top 10 manga, and then just go through what else we got to do. It could because there's some games I want to play, and it's game time. That's basically what it is. It's time. So like I would say One Piece is my third favorite manga just because it's one of the funnest ones that I've had the enjoyment of reading as it goes on. And I think like having that privilege to get to read what I did from the Doflamingo arc and the like Dressrosa stuff, and then up to with Wano, and now even here because I only really watched two Dressrosa, and so now just with the manga, reading it as it comes out week by week has been such a joy. It's just as good as Berserk in my opinion in that kind of um, way of anticipation. Like another one is like maybe Black Clover. Like Black Clover is still ongoing, but it's not on the list, and it's just one that I definitely enjoy reading as it comes out. It's so good. Dragon Ball. Dragon Ball's number four. Absolutely, it's just great. I'm waiting for it to return. I loved reading the manga originally, and it's always going to be up there. And like I'm going to try and read Z. I know there's a manga version of GT, and this extends to Super. I read all of Super from when it started. Obviously, from the moment the first chapter dropped, I read that shit. Didn't matter. Like it came out a little bit after, I guess, the first movie at the time. But yeah, from the moment then, read it. Awesome. And yeah, My Hero, obviously. I read that from start to finish after season one. Me and my friend JP, we watched it season one, and then it was manga all the way through. Read the whole thing, and I kept up with it. I guess maybe it was on maybe 150, maybe somewhere around 150 when I started. I can't really remember, but yeah, we've been reading it ever since after season one, and but by then, I would think Attack on Titan as my number six because I started reading it as it was on the tail end of part four of like what we consider to be like season four, and I joined as they would. Aaron was pretending to be a wounded war vet, but by the end of it, and that was really awesome getting to see that art and that build up. I definitely wish I started the manga earlier because that would have been more enjoyable. But like I super enjoyed the way it ended at the time of the manga, and I think the anime did just as good a job. It was great. So what we're gonna get into next is the big one, in my opinion, and that's JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. So I would think that this is like my number seven best manga I've ever read. It's just such a crazy ride to go from Phantom Blood all the way to JoJo Lands. I read all nine of these parts for here the podcast, and I enjoyed every bit of it. It was such a good time getting to experience all these characters and these fun moments because all I've ever like experienced and heard about was like references, and I've seen a couple episodes here and there, but to like get an experience the whole story. The only critique I would say is maybe like I don't really know much about like how deep the lore goes or the references because I know there's like even additional stuff when it comes to the video games and then the adaptations and light novels, and like there's even like manga sequels by other people apparently. Um, and the only thing I wish was that there was maybe more like connection between some of the like the moments and the characters. I mean, there's some references like by the time Steel Ball Run happens, there's a reference in it in like part 8, and I don't even think part 9, but it's there's stuff like that, and then recurring characters, like Polnareff coming back in uh, part 3 or 4 after part 3, which is really awesome. I really like Polnareff, and Rodan von Stroheim was really cool. It was cool having him return for a good point, and not even to mention Joseph Joestar coming back throughout a few of the parts, and I have here like a tier list. So like I would check out the YouTube video if you want to look at the screenshot of the tier list. But I'm just gonna dump that real quick just to really give my take on certain parts of JoJo if I had to choose, just because I thought they were all great. I thought they really all were. And other than that. I've been reading manga for a long time, like ever since high school and stuff, and I liked a lot of variety of manga and anime at the time. So like I would read a lot, and watch, basically a good variety. Angel Beats, Clannad, I mostly watch those. So like I not adverse to like experiencing different kinds of stories and enjoying them. And one of my absolute favorite manga that I read was after experiencing the anime, and that's Suzuka by Koji Seo. Oh man, you talk about like crazy, just a fun little kind of love story because that's it's crazy to say that because like the first mostly like love story esque thing that I've talked about here on the podcast, but I enjoyed it, man. I think what is his name, Soichi, I think, from Suzuka. And to get into the rest of it is that the story is told in like three parts. um Soichi, I think, is meeting Suzuka, this girl, and they get to be intimate throughout the entirety of the manga Suzuka, and then it goes into the sequel Kimi no Iramachi. It's been a very long time since I read that one, but I think that's like another 200 one. It's been a very long time since I read that one, and I haven't brushed up here for the podcast. But the third part, Fuka, is crazy, and I really don't want to spoil it, but it has one of the craziest kinds of twists, shock moments throughout it where it's just like the rest of the story is so different. And the fact that I got to enjoy it to that degree, and as it was going on, because what was it? I think Kimi no Iramachi was maybe ending around the time that Fuka started, and that's how I got into it. Because other than that, I wouldn't know. Maybe it was already ended, and then I knew, and then Fuka came out like later. But by the time I knew about those two, um, I was starting to read Fuka as it started to come out, like part one. I was like, oh, this is great. And there's a it's on my it's number 8 on my list simply because of having to experience that as I read it because it was just so fun. It was just enjoyable. I like that. I would love to experience that again and read Suzuka. I'd buy the whole thing and all three parts and just read them again. Um, I would say part like on my number 9 would be The Promised Neverland because by the time I caught up on there, they were far towards the end. Like I think they were hiding in some bunker, I believe, and it was actually disappointing that the anime did what it did because I would love to experience the anime in that way because it was so fun. And the story wasn't what I wanted it to be, but it was such a different take on the traditional kind of stories that you get from anime. I would equate it to maybe something like Attack on Titan or something, or even like to a degree Berserk, just because of like how grim it is. I know it's about like demons or something like that, and like the different like beings, which is like fine, whatever. But there's like a lot of pretense to it, the history behind it, like the war and like the fact that like there's such specific strategies for humans to fight against them. Oh man, and the traitor humans. That's the kind of stuff that I really liked. So like, I don't have a top 10. I really don't. I don't have a 10, but maybe in the future I will if I read more manga and stuff. I can't really think of any ones that I've read or finished or anything like that. Um, now that I think of it, maybe I read Spice and Wolf, but I really just don't remember. It's just I just go through all of these so fast. I really don't remember. It just all comes through me. But I know I read Spice and Wolf, so I would put it as my 10th if I could say. But I know I'm also reading Black Clover, and it's just really hard to say. A lot of them aren't even finished, so it's kind of hard to discern how it will really go. Because I have a specific idea of how the story might end for Berserk in some weird way. I have a specific idea, and I have a specific idea for how One Piece is gonna end, and I just want to really see how it goes, and also like Dragon Ball. So I want to see where they go, and that's just really my top 9 or so anime, and in the future, I don't really know what we're gonna read yet because I would definitely want to keep on manga. I know Jujutsu Kaisen has basically just ended, and Chainsaw Man I think is still going. There's also Fire Punch, and I hear Zat's Bell has 2 parts. This is part 2, and I'm more curious about that than anything. And then for October, I want to keep reading some horror stuff. Like I want to read a specific book soon, just to get October really rounded out with a really solid book. in terms of, recommendations from me, which I think you should all experience and read that stuff. And yeah, yeah, so that pretty much concludes everything that I wanted to talk about for this episode of the podcast. You guys, let me know if you're going to be watching the Uzumaki show as it comes out, or in the future, the Dragon Ball Daima show. And let me know what kind of books or games you guys want me to read about or talk about coming up in the future. October is a big month. There's a lot of spooky stuff. So maybe we can get some good variety of scary things. So yeah, leave a like, comment, and let me know what to do in the future. This has been the Gamer Librarian Podcast, and I'll see you guys next Friday.